Welcome to SLEERICKETS, a podcast about poetry and other intractable problems. My name's Alice. I'm your host for today. Today we are looking at the intractable problem of excellence or mastery. Matthew and I are discussing two documentaries that go together very well. Jira Dreams of Sushi, which came out in 2011, which is the story of a master sushi chef who has spent his entire life perfecting his craft and who has two sons who have been trained to do the same thing. And Queen of Chess, new Netflix documentary, just came out. The story of Judith Polgar, the Hungarian chess master, supreme queen of chess, who was trained from her childhood by her dad along with her two sisters in how to be great at chess. They're both stories of essentially handing over your whole life to be good at one thing and what that looks like, what it means, and what it means for the people around you. I recommend both. They're very different. Jira Dreams of Sushi feels like it was made approximately 50 years ago, even though it's only 15 years old. And Queen of Chess is just great fun, just really great fun. Thanks in no small part to Judith Polgar, who is my new girlfriend. I'll be back at the end to tell you a little bit more about the secret show half of this conversation, but for now, I hope you enjoy.
Hey.
Hello, Dals. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. Echo was just about to come down a little early, and then Echo had an emergency needing to go outside trip, and so yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not an actual emergency, just a whining emergency.
Well, you had to take her to the vet recently, didn't you? Clearly, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, she's okay. She's okay. She needs grooming, but yeah, she's okay. She's been a high maintenance dog lately. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I strongly relate. Yeah.
Yeah. With Queen Mab, is she doing
Oh no,
all
just
right?
being high maintenance, just
I see.
generally being
Relate to
high
Echo.
maintenance.
No,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good.
It's so nice to get to talk to you 2 weeks in a row. This is delightful.
Yeah, no, likewise. I'm glad to make it a regular habit again. Yeah, I was telling Cameron, I feel like I got into not an avoidant pattern, but just I got out of the habit of setting up a bunch of stuff in advance, and then I found myself like, all right, I just got to make a bunch of solo episodes.
I did notice that. I was like, geez, I hope, you can always just like message me and say, hey, I got nothing. Can you make something? Because I could probably turn something around in about 48 hours. But yeah, no, I mean, it's great to hear you talk on your own as well. It's all good. It's all good stuff. But yeah. And you've got AWP in like a few days?
Yeah. Going to AWP, going to be seeing Nita. I think Alexis is going to be there.
Oh, cool.
David Clark. I don't know if Rattle people will be there or not. Joanna's got a bunch of fancy fiction people she knows. There's a thing I just got invited to that I don't know what to think of called Unsent Letterbox.
What's that?
Yeah. It feels like the whole thing it's a celebration of like, it's all about how your exes are bad, and you go to celebrate how bad your exes were. But if you're like, first, like I've been married for quite a while, and second, my exes were like, some of them were a little out of hand, but like no more than I was, certainly. Like I was usually worse. So like, I don't have any ill will. I don't really want to dwell on their flaws,
So this
especially
is
not in
people
public.
reading letters that they haven't sent to their exes.
I think so. Unsent Letterbox, apparently, I'm doing a whole unpaid ad for them now. That's a whole initiative where they
These guys.
do like, people send in letters on all sorts of topics. Then they did this party after Valentine's Day, and she wants to do another one at AWP where like people bring in artifacts of their exes, and then they have like they do readings. They do these sort of, you come in to demonstrate how bad your ex was. So you're like,
It sounds like some kind of voodoo ceremony.
right. It also feels like, are straight men supposed to be there? Because I kind of feel like feels a little like even based on the
Yeah,
write up that she sent like a link to a write up, and I was like, this seems like it's a lot of gay men and women, and I don't. I mean, it's fine, but like it feels like
yeah.
maybe I'm not really the most welcome participant. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, that sounds like a
It was very,
party.
very, very nice note. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it should be nice to see some people. Yezi he's in Baltimore. Mary Jo May. I don't know if she's going to be there or not, but just be nice to go back to Baltimore and try to do something coherent for the panel.
Yeah. Do you and Joanna have like favorite spots that you go back to when you go back there from when you used to live there?
I don't know if so. She has not been back since we
Really?
left.
Wow. That's
Yeah, I've
like
been back a
over a decade, right?
few times. Yeah, no, no. It's been a little over a decade. 2014, I think. Yeah, because we left right before the riots. I mean, Karma is just like a standard place. The Charles Village pub, though there's nothing really appealing about it. It's just it was there.
Mm.
Club Charles, which I think Brewer's Art, I think did close down. Club Charles closed down and maybe opened back up. Woodbury Kitchen was great. I don't know if they're still in business and doing again more ads for Baltimore. Yeah, we,
Oh,
I
advertising
had a lot of
stuff.
haunts and like weird artsy places that I don't know if any of those are still going, but it'll be nice to go back.
Oh, I hope you have a great time. We have started a bit later than we planned, so maybe I'll just launch us into our conversation.
Please, yeah,
So we're going to do a double, maybe a triple feature.
yeah.
But
Right,
first
right.
of all, we're talking about two documentaries, Jiro
Hmm.
Dreams of Sushi from 2011 and Queen of Chess, which just came out on
Hmm.
Netflix. Very perfect double feature because they are two stories about dads, dads and their
Hmm.
kids,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and a little bit to the conversation that we were just having offline with Jonathan. They are conversations, they're documentaries about apprenticeship and mastery.
Yeah.
There's a lot of echoes between them. I'm certain that you have a lot more to say about Queen of Chess, so maybe let's talk about Jiro first, and then we can
Yeah, yeah,
launch
yeah.
into
And
the
and
yeah.
that was partly I wanted to talk to you because I know you lived in Japan and you're just more familiar with Japanese culture and language and presumably cuisine. I mean, I've eaten sushi, but not to speak of.
Yeah. Yeah, well, 2011 when this documentary came out was the last time I lived there, and was the last time I was actually only there for 6 weeks at that time, but that was my last visit. I haven't been back since for I think partly practical, but also partly emotional reasons.
Would you just for people like, sorry, I don't want to, but in addition to what you're saying, would you also let people know about the Poetry Says episode where you talk about Fukushima and leaving it? Because there's a really poignant episode you did about leaving Japan and coming back and seeing places you'd known and how it made
Yeah,
you feel.
right. You know what, Matthew? I don't remember that episode, but I will find it. I will find it. I was actually thinking
It
recently,
was
I'm
in
like,
it was in the last year of it, I think.
oh yeah, no, maybe I did do a bit of that. But I think I tried to
It
frame
was
it
it
around
was
something
quite
else.
moving. It's a beautiful episode on it. It's
Thank
worth
you.
yeah. You should do your spiel, but also people should go check that out later.
Yeah, thank you. Once I figure out which episode that is, I'll link to it. So yeah, I mean, well, this is kind of related to the last film that we might talk about. I saw the TV Globe, but as a kid, as like a 15, 16, 17-year-old, I was obsessed with Japan. I was obsessed with anime, and I wanted to get away from my family home, so I went on exchange as an 18-year-old and lived there for about a year as a student. I went back when I was 27 to teach English for 3 months. Then I went back to just to like fuck around, really, to like see the people that I met when I was a teacher. And they all lived on the coast up north in a place called Fukushima. And I lived there for about 6 months and really absolutely fell in love with that place and with the people that I met and found it very, very hard to leave. Came home at the end of 2010 and then March 2011, the tsunami happened, and all the places where we all used to hang out became part of an exclusion zone. So that's like the whirlwind story of all that.
Because it was not just a tsunami for people who might not remember, but it was also there was a nuclear plant meltdown.
Yeah, it was a 9.1 earthquake off the coast of Japan that triggered a tsunami that went all the way down the coast, killed about 20,000 people despite the early warning system. And a lot of places were just fully destroyed, but the places where we used to live were not destroyed by the tsunami, but you couldn't go back to them. Although some of the older inhabitants just said, "Fuck you, I'm not leaving here. It's fine. It's fine." And yeah, I'm getting too far into it. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that 2011 was a long ass time ago now, and I haven't been back there since because I just find it all a little bit too much to approach. So when Jiro Dreams of Sushi came out, I can say with a lot of confidence, I probably avoided it for a while because I didn't really want to think about Japan much at all for a long time. But then I finally did watch it, and I remember at the time thinking, wow, what an amazing, wonderful, revealing documentary. Rewatching it in 2026 and then immediately watching Queen of Chess
Mm.
makes me realize the, I guess, what I'll call the Netflixification of documentaries. So now Jiro Dreams of Sushi seems so slow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like an Adam Curtis. It's sort of like it goes over here and says a few things about this, then it goes over there, it says a few things about that. Whereas Queen of Chess follows this format that is now every documentary, which is you start out with a montage. Crazy things happened. You will never believe it. Oh my God, I was shocked. I was amazed.
Yeah,
And then we
yeah.
start the story and we build up to this very dramatic big finish. And then we have the sort of split ending where it's like there was triumph, but also heartbreak. And like every documentary is that now. So Jiro
And
Dreams of
all of the
Sushi,
events are on they're on rails. So it's like
totally on rails.
it's the conflict is Judith versus Gary Kaspar. Like that's
Yeah.
the story of her
Yeah.
chess career.
Yeah, which of course you can just tell when you're watching it that there are probably 16 other ways to tell her story, and it doesn't have to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
about him, but it is. That's how they've chosen to frame it. But Jiro Dreams of Sushi is the story of a famous, world-renowned sushi chef called Jiro. He is the son of a pretty serious fuck up, alcoholic
Yeah, yeah.
guy who left the family when Jiro was 7. At age 9, Jiro was kicked out of the house and told, "You're on your own." And then he went to establish, he decided to work as a sushi chef and trained and worked his way up to running this world famous restaurant. He has two sons, both of whom he's also trained up. One of them, Jiro decided, was ready to start his own branch of the restaurant, and the other is still essentially an apprentice at Jiro's restaurant. At the time of the documentary filming, he's 85. He's now 100. He is still working.
Whoa, what?
Yep. Hmm.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
That is not what I expected. His son is now like in his
Oh,
70s, 80s. I mean,
fuck,
like,
I don't know. But so how do you like take all this looking at this father-son dynamic? I'm fascinated to hear your thoughts on that
yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, right, because I think what I had never seen it before. So I should look up, it was a listener who signs his emails O who recommended that I watch this. And I just want to see what he initially said about it because he says, I'm reminded of this by your discussions with Alice about pursuing happiness in a poetry career. In what way is creating a poem like creating a meal for someone, and is that good or bad?
Mm.
And I mean, he's got a lot of questions, a lot of angles on this. The story I remember hearing when it came out was it's a beautiful documentary, which it is. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's very
pretty.
beautiful.
And if you are at all susceptible to ASMR, it's very much keyed to that yeah, to that register. What I remember hearing about a lot was people reading it as like instantly turning it into a blueprint for success. And then when I looked up online,
Mm-hmm.
there's just endless articles taking various elements. Specifically, there's a honestly like only sort of clear little spiel given by one of the primary commentators is a food writer named Masahiro Yamamoto. Remind me, in I don't know, in Japanese, does the it looks like the way they're written, they have the surnames come second, the way they do in English. Is that consistent
In
with?
Japanese, your surname comes first, but
Okay.
Yamamoto is a last name, so they flipped it there.
Okay, and it looks like, yeah, when I see the names of like the family, they've put Ono at the back. So
Hmm.
so all right, that makes more sense. But yeah, so Masahiro Yamamoto says a great chef has the following five attributes. First, they take their work very seriously and consistently perform on the highest level. Second, which is like, well, what is that? Is that even a rule? Is that anything? Second, they aspire to improve their skills. Third is cleanliness. If the restaurant doesn't feel clean, the food isn't going to taste good. The fourth attribute is impatient. This is definitely, it's people point out, the most interesting one. They are not prone to collaboration. They're stubborn and insist on having things their own way. What ties these attributes together is passion. That's what makes a great chef. Jiro has all of these. Jiro has all of these attributes. He's a perfectionist. So, I mean, I'm interested in some of those, but it did feel like very, very quickly people just wanted to take this and say like, wow, that's what it means to really, really do a great job. And you can see like in the initial spiel that Jiro gives, he says, in addition to that, he literally dreams about sushi and that there's an enormous amount of repetition to his days. He says, you must always love your job and never complain about your job. And you feel like there's this part of this is like Japanese work culture. Part
Mm.
of it is like this one old man with like this, as Jeffrey
With
Hill would say, an
serious
extremely
trauma.
traumatized old man, like how he survived
Yeah.
World War II,
Yep.
childhood, being abandoned. Like he
Hmm.
came up with a program that got him through it all. And he's a very devoted father. He's in some ways incredibly unfair to his sons, but he's also extremely dedicated to them. And the way I read it was like his father totally fucked him.
Hmm.
He was a completely damaged human being. And you see that even now. Like he can make sushi. Like that is his life. There is nothing else. He doesn't even like when there pretends to be something else. And then it's sort of that's the only tool he has for showing love to his sons. But like, I think he's done like a remarkably good job given all the circumstances with his son. Similar with honestly with Judith Polgar's dad. Like, was he kind of insane and a taskmaster and like totally like a maniac in how he raised them? Yes, but like he was also trying his best to give them a good life given the circumstances he was in. And it feels like in both cases, like, are there clearly negative repercussions? Are there clearly like huge trade-offs and problems? Is like his son, whom you come to just adore, this like very sort of broken middle-aged man named Yoshikazu Ono, who's really really lovable, and as you learn over the course of the movie, is maybe even his father's equal in a way that nobody, it's sort of impossible to acknowledge. There's huge problems that they all suffer from as a result of this, but it seems like you have to be raised by somebody and you have to be raised under some conditions. So given given what he started with, it seems like, yeah, would you design a childhood this way? No. But
Mm.
like he did a pretty damn good job for him. Right?
Exactly.
You know?
Given where he was coming from and
Yeah.
that intense trauma that he was bringing to it. I might give a very quick overview of the Queen of
Please.
Chess documentary as well too, so we can kind of talk about both because they are
Yeah.
just so similar. So Queen of Chess is the story of Judith Polgar, who is a very significant chess player in many ways that Matthew will be able to explain better than me. But basically, her dad, so she grew up in communist Hungary, one of three daughters, and her dad very intentionally set out at a certain point in their childhood, very early, like when they were sort of 4, 5, 6, to run what is referred to in the documentary as an experiment. And the experiment was if I train these girls in a very intensive way over a dedicated period of time, I think that I can create a genius. And he trains them in chess, and they train for basically from the time of waking to the time that they go to sleep. They are training chess in some way when they're
Yeah.
children, and then they become a chess team that is able to win these competitions. But Judith is the one who makes it. And
Yeah. I mean, her
the doc,
sister
yeah.
Susan also became a grandmaster. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And I think both the movies are saying, like you said, this is not ideal. However,
yeah, yeah.
isn't success great? Isn't being a master a great thing? And maybe I don't feel like either documentary is willing to say it's not worth it. I think both come down on the side of no matter how hard your childhood was, no matter how hard your life is now,
Yeah.
pretty good to succeed.
Yeah.
Like,
Although,
yeah.
as with like the I can't remember which philosopher it was who came up with the idea of the veil of ignorance when you're designing a civilization, but like the real question or the society, the real question is not was it worth it for Judith? The real question is was it worth it for Sophia, the least talented sister, who also
Mm-hmm.
was a very strong player and like represented Hungary in the chess Olympiad and like was I think it said she completed 3 grandmaster norms but never became grandmaster, which means I guess she just never got her rating quite high enough. But very very strong player, but like chess didn't become a significant. I mean, clearly it's a significant part of her life, but it didn't determine her life. It wasn't. It didn't shower her with rewards the way it did Judith or even Susan to a lesser degree. Even in her case, I would say, what he's doing, like there was a whole other version of this movie because the movie also focused a whole lot on, in a way that I will probably be annoying, but like I was slightly frustrated by its emphasis on girl power as the headline for
I assumed
Judith,
you would be, yeah.
a, a fucking super grandmaster, like like the number. She's the 64th highest rated player in history, and for it's like, but like there was a whole other version of the story that could have been just about, it was a Jewish family in Hungary.
Mm.
And like the Holocaust in Hungary was holy shit. I mean, like the police got involved. It was really, really bad at every level. That's where Night begins. If you've ever read Elie Wiesel's Night, it begins in Hungary. Her family is Jewish. There's like 2 extremely oblique references to that in the movie, otherwise no mention of it. They have play the Bobby Fischer saying women can't play chess, women are stupid over and over again. Huge asshole, famously an asshole, Bobby Fischer. Also huge anti-Semite. They never make
Mm.
any, so it's like you just see how there's a choice made about which story we're going to tell, given what Laszlo Polgar grew up in. Given again, they said like, why did I choose chess? I chose it because it was cheap. It was
Yeah.
learnable and it was cheap. It was cheaper than an instrument. Even for Sophia, it feels like you got to do something for your kids, and you only have the options you have. But yeah, no, both movies clearly idolize mastery in a way that feels like if there is a moral compromise anywhere in the movie, it may be there.
And Queen of Chess spends more time in a small way, really through editing, through lingering on Judith Dad's face after he says things like, but they always had fun. It says more about the effects and the compromises and the cost than Jira Dreams of Sushi. It honestly, Jira Dreams of
Yeah,
Sushi to me feels like a time capsule of a sort of an Obama era, like not so much obsession, but like looking to Japan in particular for instructions. I think there was a book that
yeah,
came out around that time called Ikigai, which was, how to live your life. It's a very popular airport book. Minimalism was this huge thing around the time, and then you kind of get like a little bit later, you get to Marie Kondo and all that sort of stuff. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a fetishization, something like that.
or is the Orientalism? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I guess, yeah. What I'm talking about is
Yeah,
Orientalism. Yeah.
right.
I think if you were to make that documentary now, you would spend more time pushing Yoshikazu to say, I hate my dad. I hate
Yeah,
waiting
yeah,
for him
yeah,
to retire. I'm so sick of this life. I've been forced in, like
yeah.
wanting
But
that
I don't
sort
think
of.
you would have gotten him to say it. I think you would
No,
have had
no
to.
way.
Yeah,
No, I don't think
no.
so. But they would have found a way to kind of like, they would have zoomed in on his like eye when it looked like there was a
They would
tear
have found like
forming in
his
it.
ex-wife to be like, fuck, to fuck his dad. That guy's an asshole.
Yeah. Queen of Chess, I messaged you straight after I finished it. fuck, I love her. I fucking love her.
She's amazing. Yeah.
She
In addition to
is,
being an amazing player, yeah, she's.
you just instantly fall in love with her. She is just the most charming person. And she's been through this life, which sounds on paper unbearable, really, in a lot of ways, until she starts to succeed. But she's
Mm.
got this, like, you look at her, she's got this, like, cheeky little glint in her eye. And even the photos and the footage of her when she's younger, she's under a huge amount of pressure, but she is clearly enjoying every part of what she's doing as well, I think. I mean, that's the impression I got.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, she is built for like she got the right training, but she was also built for it. I mean, she's a good demonstration of why there's a little bit of a like there's like a micro drama they make out of like she's locked behind the Iron Curtain. They couldn't, like she couldn't get out
Mm.
from the, but like being locked behind the Iron Curtain if you are a chess master is like a gay freshman being like, oh no, don't lock me in the fraternity house. And it's like that's the place
Yeah.
to be is behind the Iron Curtain. But you like she's a good demonstration of why the Soviets dominated so long because they made a real effort to find all of their grandmasters, to basically from a very young age figure out if anybody was talented. And her family basically was all three sisters were put through this extremely intense pressure test to see like, does any of you have a real knack for this? She
Mm.
did. She was the youngest, which meant she also saw her older sisters doing it. And so there was an additional degree of like envy and hero worship in
Mhm.
her pursuing it as the last one who's allowed to start training. But no, she's unbelievably charismatic.
Mm.
She's like, she's a nice looking person, but she's one of these people who's like her, her attractiveness stats way outstrip her looks. She's
Yeah,
so
she's
appealing,
just been,
so
yeah,
magnetic.
so
And her
magnetic.
like as her sweet dorky veterinarian husband said, her
He's the
smiling
best.
eyes. Her smiling eyes were so sexy. She has smiling eyes that are sexy.
He has
She's a
crazy
total
eyes,
yeah,
by the way. Like he has the
yeah.
most weird looking
This
face ever. But he's like,
I
oh,
violated protocol and asked her, "Would you like to play tennis?" But he also loved that he said like this woman with crazy red hair came in who looked exactly like Judith Polgar. And I was like, oh, he was already a fan. He was already.
oh my God, it's so
Um,
cute.
no, she's
Yeah.
totally lovable. I mean that's
Mm.
like she's the prize of the movie is like she's such a great. So few chess players would make a good subject for a documentary, let
Yeah.
alone top level players. Which again, she was like she also like from it, which is shocking from her basically her public debut at the age of 12 until her retirement was the by far strongest female player in the world. Like the entirety of her career. But for
Mm.
part of that, she was also one of the top 10 players, period, in the
Yeah.
world. There only 140 people have ever become super grandmasters, which is not an official category, but like if you're a grandmaster and then your rating exceeds 2,700, it's so few people. It's so few people. And she's above halfway on that list
Mm.
of peak ratings. Yeah, sorry, I can get too intense about Judith Polgar, but we should. This is going to be a total catastrophe for you to try to edit, especially into
No,
2 episodes.
no, it'd be fine.
We should dig into some into Your Dreams of Sushi because I have real questions about it,
Okay.
and and like the thing that I thought about obviously because O suggested it when he sent the email, but then also watching it and then watching Queen of Chess, there is a sort of a dumb truism in like poetry workshops that anytime you write a poem and you describe a process, like the process of like a skilled process, a process of having to do something, you like famous example being after apple picking, right? Anytime you're describing a process, mending wall, rubber frost has 1,000 of these. Anytime you describe a process, what you're really doing is you're writing an Ars Poetica, right? That's the kind of received wisdom. You're
Yeah.
really writing an Ars Poetica. And so
Yeah.
whatever you're
People do
describing,
say
what you're
that.
really saying is this is how you make a poem.
I find that
Part of
kind of
what I
annoying.
really, it's very annoying. It's very
Mm.
annoying. Part of what I really enjoyed about both of these movies, though, was that they felt like because we didn't have to see them as Ars Poeticae, but we could just see them as documentaries, they have a lot of parallels to poetry, but then also you see how different they are. Like you see places
Absolutely.
where there's
Yeah.
strong overlap and then strong divergence. And I was curious how you thought of that first in Jiro.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was watching it trying to think of what are the parallels with poetry. I mean, Jiro will kind of come out with these lines like, yeah, you must only love your work and you must be forever committed to getting a little bit better each day. And you hear lines like that and you think, yeah, I guess that applies to poetry. But I suppose what's missing in both cases is that there's objective measures, which is something that you've talked about before when you've brought up chess. There are objective measures of what it takes to be a grandmaster. There are objective measures for what it, well, I suppose there's subjective measures, but like the Michelin guys who go around the world, like they've eaten a lot of food, so they
Mm,
know what's good. And
yeah.
yeah, Jira's restaurant has had the same number of Michelin stars basically for as long as he's been getting a rating, even
And
though
for
he,
anybody who doesn't know, having even any number of Michelin stars is an astonishing accomplishment. And he has the maximum number as a stand-up sushi restaurant, where you're supposed to eat in 15 minutes and leave.
yeah, yeah. So that is where I think the parallel stops. Like I think there are parallels when it comes to the way that these movies, the way that I know we're trying to talk about Jiro Dreams of Sushi, but yeah, the way that these movies talk about effort. But I mean, you could put in all the effort in the world. One of the things that neither film is willing to say is like these people are fucking special. There's something
Yeah,
special about them. And both
yeah,
seem to kind of want to feed you this narrative, which in 2011 in particular, I think was like very seductive to people. If you just try hard every single day to reach the
get your
same
10,000
goal,
hours.
10,000 fucking hours, Tim Ferriss. And
I think was it Tim Ferriss? It was. I think of Malcolm Gladwell. It was probably
oh
all
yeah,
of them,
Malcolm
all
Gladwell,
those
but
guys.
Tim Ferriss is also baby
Yeah,
Malcolm. Yeah, those boys did a lot of they got up to a lot of mischief in the early 2010s. And I was very seduced by them, like not so much Malcolm Gladwell and Tim Ferriss, but their sort of descendants. I was very much like, okay, I can, if I write 100 poems in 100 days, and I'm gonna get, and like maybe you will get a little bit better, but the thing that no one's admitting, as I just said, is like there's something really special about these people. And maybe you're just, maybe you're not, maybe you don't have that special thing.
yeah. Yoshikazu, I think, is the one person who says that in either movie. He says early on, he says, and he's like, you see him just doing like endless scut work. This is the middle-aged son who should already, he's like 50 in the movie. He should already clearly have inherited the restaurant, but you just see him doing the lowest level prep work all day long. And in the middle of doing prep work, he says, if you keep working, you'll get better. But if you want to actually be good, you have to be talented.
Yeah. Is that I mean, how did that strike you? Sort of the message that the movies are trying to send about effort versus what they're saying about talent.
I watched a bunch of other Judith Polgar videos, and I have other thoughts and recommendations for people. But it was interesting rewatching because I watched it and I also watched it with my daughter who was entranced. And it was like she knew who
Oh,
Judith Polgar was, and I'd shown her some amazing little short video of her in a casual speed match tricking Magnus Carlsen really beautifully in like a park in Madrid.
I think you showed that to me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very fun little video. So like she knew of her, and she knows some of chess. If she knew who Gary Kasparov was, and so she enjoyed it. It's like, and it's a very, very entertaining, very, as you said, it's like very fast paced documentary made for just like eating like popcorn. It's funny. Only rewatching it, I noticed at the very end, did she say the same thing that I saw I saw it, and I was sort of winced when I saw that Magnus Carlsen was asked to evaluate her ability.
Mm.
Magnus Carlsen, the really the best. They play some fudging, and they kind of, some people outright say, and sometimes they kind of fudgily say Gary Kasparov is the greatest player ever to have lived. I think it's increasingly hard to make that case. Almost certainly it's Magnus Carlsen who's still the best player in the world, but he was asked to evaluate her as a player, and he said, in terms of so what were the four rankings they gave him? It was genius, influence, entertainment, and sanity. He gave her a 10 on sanity, which is like high. Like chess players, like a lot of other chess players would have got a much, like Kramnik probably got a 5. If that. Bobby Fischer probably got a 4.5. A 9 in entertainment and influence. And he said a 7 in genius. He said, I don't really see genius. Of course, getting a 7 out of 10 is not bad if you're. But he said, I don't see genius. I see extreme repetition.
Mm,
And then only on rewatching the video, the documentary, did I realize she says the same thing about herself.
that
She
she's
says, I don't think I'm a
only.
genius. I think 95% of what I did is just the incredible like depth of preparation I got. Just doing this from when I was 5 all day long, every single day. She had like a training camp with Gary Kasparov where they spend like 4 hours a day training. And she was like, oh, I was surprised that Gary spent so little time training.
We had to go out in his banana boat.
Right. Yeah. To go on the banana. But for some reason, there's something so endearing about like old, like bad film footage of like these, some of the best players who ever lived, like palling around in a yellow boat in their bathing suits. Like it's just so absurd, but
So
really
good.
lovable. Yeah.
So good. Yeah, no, she says I'm not a genius. And when she says that, there's no sense of, oh, but I wish I was. It's a very practical, down to earth sort of statement.
It's a technical evaluation.
Yeah, yeah. But it's not, I don't feel that she even would desire to be a genius. It's not, she doesn't feel any sense of envy over people who might be described in that way. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
now I'm just trying to psychologize her, but
But I think, I mean, it's the same thing I remember noticing when I taught at the ballet school that, like, even for fucking 16 and 17-year-olds, they were remarkably cold and sober about their comparative evaluations.
yeah, that's where poets diverge greatly.
Right. Like, well, Patty's the
Yeah.
best. She started the latest and she
Mm.
doesn't practice as much as everyone else, but she's better. Like it was very clean cut. And chess players tend to talk in the same way when they're not doing Netflix documentaries. Like they tend to be pretty unromantic. Like it's the unusual cases where they're really trying to. It's honestly, it's like it's a handful of top players, but also like especially assholish players like Kasparov, like Bobby Fischer, like Hans Niemann, like Magnus Carlsen to some degree. Also kind of like a little bit more reserved and a little bit more strategic an asshole, but also an asshole. But the majority of them, it's pretty clinical how they look at it all. And clearly, like if it's like clearly there's talent, clearly there's some degree of genius because her sister's got identical training, and like clearly, like there's you see the selection, right? So but she's not thinking about this in terms of who's the best at the club, who's even the best in the country. She's thinking about it in terms of like, well, who are the handful of players you would wish to dream to play if you could go play Capablanca, when he was alive. Like that's the scale she's thinking of.
And trying to think about and trying to like link that back to poetry is difficult because again, we don't have objective measures really. Like
Yeah.
part of the conversation we were having this morning was like, you open poetry magazine and like this is shit. I
Yeah.
heard a podcaster the other day, totally unrelated to poetry, make the joke, oh, this is like a New Yorker poem, like as an
Yeah.
insult.
Yeah. 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 Totally.
Um, yeah, so but like the objective measure, such as it is I've been published in Poetry Magazine, I've been published in the New Yorker, but we all know that doesn't necessarily mean you're any good.
This is related to this is one of the reasons I really want to reschedule the AMA that I fucked up. I think I have a very good question on this point
Yes, no, well,
that I want to ask you and
anytime.
you and the boys.
Yes, I'm
But
ready
yeah,
to.
but
Mm.
so I will propose that I think the significant structural way in which the crafts depicted in the two movies diverge significantly from poetry are that both have more commercial appeal than poetry, especially sushi. But chess has objective standards, and especially like it's not binary. It's really as they make a point in the movie. There are three outcomes, right? Win, lose, or draw, and draw is the most common at the highest level. unless you're Judith Polgar.
Unless you're Judith Polgar who
And
refused
then
to draw until
you
her
just
husband
like
was like,
fight.
hey,
Yeah,
maybe
you
you
just
want to
sacrifice
draw.
all your pieces and
Yeah.
say, I'm going to fight you to the death or die on the on try die trying. But I think with chess, it's the objective standard. With sushi, I think it's the repeatability
Yeah,
because, of
true,
course,
true,
you
true.
eat sushi. And so, if hypothetically you could make the same identical sushi again, that would be a success. And so, that's partly what he means when he says, I try to get a little bit better, because so much of it is just strict repetition. And that doesn't work when you're, and again, like I think cooks and musical performers in a way have something, there's something about these skills, even actors to some degree, right? Stage actors especially, who are doing hundreds of performances. There is a slightly different quality to an art form that allows for identical or near identical repetition as total success, right? Like you can't even come close to writing the same poem again and have it be considered a success. I mean, it's almost the definition of like losing your touch is repeating yourself as a poet.
Yeah. I suppose the only way that you could do something like that is what you've suggested in the past, write 100 rhyming couplets, just as practice, not to publish.
Totally. No, but this is where I think there is real parallelism with the sushi, because the other thing that you start to see a few things happen over the course of the movie. One is that the guy presenting the sushi to you is actually doing very little. And that's Jiro. People go there to have Jiro serve them sushi. It's beautiful watching him sort of cut, brush, compose, shape, and present the sushi. It's very beautiful. You see tens of thousands of hours of just practice. It's so second nature to him, and it's so precise. But what makes the biggest difference between his sushi and everybody else's sushi is what comes before. And that's where he's like his absolute taskmaster is all of the preparation.
Yeah, you're going to massage this octopus. I used to do it for 6 hours. Now I do it for 15 or something. Like, I don't know
Right. He
what's
says
the
like we
fucking
like
octopus.
they do like the work they put, and this is why their sushi is so expensive. It's that they're putting more work into their ingredients once they have them than anybody else by like 2 to 3 times. And it's like there's something, so much of it you see like the specifics of the Japanese market. There are fish vendors who will only sell to him because he's the best, and they won't make more money selling to someone else, right? Which is just unthinkable in the
Yeah.
West. Similarly, I think like there's a just that there's a market for sushi in this particular way. Like so much of this is it's not even like watching it. I didn't think what a great blueprint for success to pick up and transport into another field. I thought everything had to happen just so to make this possible in Japan at this time. And they even make a point toward the end of saying like, well, now there's too much sushi, so the fish are overfished, so this is all going away. Like this is a time capsule, right? It's a time capsule of a craft of everything. But I think that where I did see really real similarity is in the intersection of extreme slowness and repetition with extreme speed. Because it's actually a matter of craft that he wants you to eat the sushi quickly. He gives you, they're like big pieces of sushi. It's not like a little chopped sushi roll. It's this little like candy bar size almost composition that he's made. It doesn't look the way you see normal, sushi looking in a supermarket, certainly. And what you're supposed to do is pick it up either with your fingers or with your chopsticks and put the entire thing in your mouth, chew it as quickly as possible, and swallow it all at once. Because that's how he's designed it. He wants you to have that perfect experience in your mouth very quickly, all at once. He doesn't want you to savor over it. He doesn't want you to get distracted and have a conversation and take a bite and then take a bite of one part but not the other part. He put those ingredients to be all in your mouth at once to be eaten quickly. But each of them was prepared exhaustively ahead of time. And to me, where I saw the parallel there was exactly what you said. Like so much of poetry is getting your skill down.
Mm.
right? Like getting your like making the lines natural. I had a nice exchange with Julie Steiner, a poet, who and sometimes translator who listens, who sent me a couple of poems she wrote that were sort of about the Catholic Church or various Catholic questions, but one of them was in sapphics, and I said like I was surprised. My one quibble was she used the word "siggy" as a slang word in a way that felt like whose voice is this? But other than that, it was remarkably fluent, natural spoken English. It just felt like somebody talking, but it all fell into accentual sapphics in English. I thought it was really beautifully done. And we had a little exchange about where there are good or bad examples of that. She has a list on Eratosphere. I can put a link to it. But it's really hard to do, and so much of it is getting enough practice at it. But then some of those, like both the consumption and to some extent the composition, sometimes has to happen quickly. Certainly with the consumption, I think like I really do want people to be able to take it all in and enjoy it in a powerful way all at once. It doesn't mean you never go back to find more later, but I want it to be possible for you to just put the whole thing in your mouth, chew it up, swallow it quickly, and have a real experience.
Yeah, you said a while back you wanted it to go down like a Moravian ginger cookie.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. Or a, perfect gyro, I was going to say a susho, but that's wrong. It's Italian. So it's the singular of sushi.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I want that. I want you to stand up at the bar and eat it right in front of me as quickly as possible and enjoy it like that. And that so many hours of labor went into it is what allows it to be so immediately and effortlessly enjoyable.
You know what I just realized is like your poem Egg and Dart is basically these documentaries. Like there's such a like strong line behind.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
typical process poem, like a process poem revealing Ars
Typical
Poetica.
process
Yeah,
poem.
yeah,
Oh
yeah, yeah, yeah.
man. Yeah. I'm not allowed to compliment Matthew on his poems, so we're gonna move on from
But yeah,
that.
like I guess the idea being, I don't see it, but like the idea being that you work hard to make something that you barely notice, sort of.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm going for as well. I think other poets have other goals, but what's much less acknowledged in conversations about poetry, and this is coming up in conversations with Jonathan a little bit recently too, is just the work. Just poetry is not real. Like even I reckon, I mean, look, I've never done an MFA. I don't know what's involved, but it doesn't sound that hard. Like, what do you got to do? You got to read some stuff. You got to be in a workshop for a while.
Yeah, an MFA is not where
Like that's not your
I think there are
apprenticeship, right?
exceptions, but for the most part, you don't go there to learn how to write poems.
Mm. No, it's like a networking thing.
Yeah, in the best cases, it's mostly. I mean, that's mostly what you hope to get out of it. I think. Again, I think there are exceptions, and I also think there are people who teach in MFAs who are doing their best to do a good job to teach people. But yeah, I think most MFAs are a waste of time, and a lot of them, even when they're not a total waste of time, you're not. It's not like you're getting a lot of skilled training in most cases.
Yeah. And when the competition at the end is so arbitrary, it's hard to be motivated to do the
No,
scut
right?
work. Yeah.
Why? Why
Why?
bother? Yeah.
Exactly. I can probably eventually get a poem into the publication that I want if I just kind of hang around long enough and figure out what the editor likes and yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and make friends.
and make friends, go out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Live in one of the right cities and hang out with people. Like that's if what you want is to get published in a cool magazine, that's the way to do it.
Absolutely.
Practicing some skill that that's not a good way to get into a prestigious magazine.
No. This might be a good
It's a
way
terrible way to
to
do it.
not
Yeah.
get into a prestigious
Right,
magazine,
exactly. Yeah.
actually. Um, yeah, but it might be a good way to feel satisfied with yourself and your work. I mean, that's the thing with Jira Dreams of Sushi. I think he cares about the Michelin stars, but I think what he cares about more is his own measure of how successful he is. Like his sense of his achievement is what's important to him. Whereas Judith is kind of, she's got this very serious objective measure that she knows she needs to meet.
Though yeah, there's other. I I've so many thoughts. But the thing that I thought like where I connected maybe the most to Jiro was early on. He says it's such a it's such a simple observation that it almost sounds like meaningless or stupid. But one of the things they show early on is that he and his son eat a lot in the restaurant.
They
Like
do. They
throughout
eat
the
while they're
day, while
making
they're
stuff.
preparing,
Yep.
they're constantly eating and they're giving each other things or taking stuff from the apprentices and like, and they're always saying like, yeah, yeah, it's not bad. A little too tough. Put it back in the vinegar. Little more marination. A little more massage. A little more, you know. But the explanation Jiro gives, and again, it has this like perfect simplicity to it. He says, if it doesn't taste good, you can't serve it. Like it's that's like the most obvious thing in the world, but it also felt
Yeah.
like that's a fucking thunderbolt to the poetry scene. Like, no, if it doesn't taste good, you
You
can't
can't
serve
serve
it.
it. Yeah. So many of these things that people say in both these documentaries feel like rules for life, but particularly in Queen of Chess, like everything they say feels like a metaphor for everything. Like if you don't
Hmm.
believe you're on the same level, you have no chance of winning the game. Like, oh
Yeah,
wow,
yeah, yeah.
I need
But
that
they
one
also
mug.
like everything is contradicted. Like the last thing she says is fight fight to the end no matter what. But like there was a whole kind of interesting little like sub wrinkle where you see like as she gets a little bit older, she develops what turns out to be a very smart revision in her strategy that involves taking compromise, that involves not fighting to the end in every case, but choosing her battles, basically choosing the places where it's worth fighting to the end and taking a solid draw on the others. That's something you do see from the top players. Magnus Carlsen is notorious for this. Is like once he has won a tournament, he'll check out. Like once he's mathematically won it, he won't bother to put in the work to play the other games well. It's not just that it's not just laziness, but it's like you only have so much calculation you can do in a given week, day, month, how, you know. So it's not worth it. And I think for her and for, you know, and there are players who play differently, but they have sort of different burn rates. And I think it ended up being really good for her and really good for her rating and her, you know, ultimate performance to learn to be a little more selective. It's sort of like they say that it's worse to get bitten by a baby snake because like mature snakes know how to control how much venom they're giving you. Baby snakes will just give it to you every time.
Mm.
And she's a baby snake for much
She's
of
a
her
baby
career, which is partly
snake.
why she's so entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
She's so aggressive, so sacrificial, so ruthless.
Well, so I know that the sort of whole like girl power angle in the documentary
Yeah,
was
yeah,
was annoying. Honestly, it annoyed the shit out of me too, because I was just like, come on, like this is very, very ham-fisted here, guys. Like particularly the soundtrack. Just like,
yeah.
but
Yeah, it's a
anyway,
lot of like Yeah, they ended with
yeah,
Decepticon, La Tigra.
yeah, La
Great
Tigra.
song, but
Yeah,
like it felt like college feminism soundtrack one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But what I want to get you talking about is the personalities. And one of the things that is pretty undeniable is that Kasparov doesn't seem to think that the female brain is particularly worth taking seriously.
I mean, Kasparov's a huge asshole. It's funny because he doesn't come off well in this documentary,
No, he
and
really
yet,
doesn't.
and yet, watching like the thoughts I kept having were, A, why is there so much Kasparov in this? It's called Queen of Chess. She has people have referred to her that way before, but it's also clearly called Queen of Chess on Netflix as a callback to the Queen's Gambit,
And
right? Which is
one
a
of
huge,
the
huge hit for them.
talking heads looks almost exactly like the girl from Queen's Gambit.
Anna Rudolph.
I guess so. They're the redhead.
Yeah, this is a problem for my eye. Yeah, she has
Mm.
more red hair. Yeah, to me, I couldn't tell you whose hair was what. But yeah, Anna Rudolph, I think is yeah. She's a good commentator. I did have some quibbles with the commentators too. I will say Maurice Ashley has never been more entertaining than he was in this documentary. But boy, he is just like like a plank of wood. I mean, he's the FIDE spokesman, and so he
Yeah,
always
yeah.
officiates the press conferences at the World Championship matches, and like
Yeah.
he's a grandmaster, like he's a serious player, but he has no charisma at all, and they plugged him in here. Like again, I've never seen him more laid back, but like, why are you the guy? And if Javanka Huska, I also like, what are you doing here? Like everybody else was there at the time. And like Anna Rudolph is a great commentator, very charming. My daughter loved her, and like she kept saying like, "Oh, I like it." It was like great choice. That's exactly what you want from a talking head. But like it just felt like there's so many other choices you could have made that would have been really that even Peter, what's his name, Peter Leka, who's the other like great Hungarian player. It's also a great commentator. Yeah. Anyway, the thought I had was there's a lot of Gary Kasparov. They're calling back to the Queen's Gambit, and Gary Kasparov was the primary consultant for the Queen's Gambit.
Oh, okay.
He has a relationship with Netflix. And so clearly, if they were going to make a documentary about Judith Polgar, and who knows how all this came to be, but it's Netflix was involved. Clearly, they went to him. And it's almost like if you asked him, what was the story of Judith Polgar's life?
Yeah, right.
It was the story of how she finally beat me once out of 12 times.
After I brought her to my summer retreat and we went on the banana boat, and she finally relaxed and realized that I wasn't a god, and then she
finally, when she beat me, then she was finally one of us. She was one of you from fucking her teenage years. Like there's a really good 10-minute video I found online it's contemporaneous coverage. So it's coverage from 1994 of a game she played or match she played, but they really just cover one game with Nigel Short, who's an English grandmaster. And she's got like a big old poofy ponytail. She looks young. It's like a giant baggy, like skirt suit on, but
the
like
fashion,
she's just this
the
kid.
shoulder pads alone.
It's hilarious. Yeah. But she's just an absolute mercenary. Like she's getting beaten. She's in very bad shape and is like absolutely on the run, and then just wheels on the guy. And it like and it's fascinating because you're getting the commentary of the guy at the time. So he doesn't have a chess engine to run it all against. He's having to go based on his own understanding of the game. And he's so electrified by her choices. And she crushes this guy. Like it's a two game match because you always have to have even numbers. And like the first game is a just knockdown drag out fight in which she like gets into a terrible position, gets on the run, and then starts just wildly sacrificing pieces and cuts him down like to this. It's so dizzying to watch it happen that you can imagine being this guy and thinking like, wait, how did any of this come to be? And then apparently he just totally fell apart in the second. Like the second game wasn't even worth mentioning because he was just garbage in that game after she did this to him. That's Judith Polgar. Like she's an honest to God chess player. She's not like I took my daughter into the voting booth in 2016 in November to vote for Hillary Clinton. And I thought like, the cheesy libtard part of me was like, hey, my 2-year-old daughter's here, I'm not quite 3, voting for the first female president, who's clearly going to be the first female president. And obviously that didn't work out. And then in the year that followed, there were so many little girls like books for illustrated, girls books about female heroes. And they all featured Hillary Clinton. And they all had this sort of like funny, wishy-washy language that was like, Hillary Clinton showed that girls can, in theory, do anything. Or like she showed that anyone can run for president. And like they were all clearly had been all like laid out and ready to go, assuming she would win. And then they all had to kind of couch it to say like, all right, this sucks. But also like there was a real achievement here. Hillary Clinton's never been one of my favorite people, but like it was a remarkable achievement to get to the place she got to. It's just that the prize was, as Richard Nixon said, when you get second place in the Olympics, you get a silver medal. The second place in politics, you get oblivion. But like, part of what was so maddening about this movie is that a lot of it felt like that. Like they were softening the corners and they were mushing the categories. And they kept saying like, Gary Kasparov he had been the world champion and was arguably she beat the greatest. They were hedging and couching. If you look at the dates, like he wasn't the world champion in 2002 when she beat him. There was a split world championship. It was Kramnik and Vichy Anand. He was still an extraordinary player. I mean, he's still fucking Gary Kasparov and is basically in his prime. But they kept sort of having to couch and hedge in a way that I wanted to say, like, no, you don't have to hedge anything. Like the straight ahead numbers, the straight ahead facts are amazing in themselves. Like you don't have to put her on the girls' tee. Like this is a serious super grandmaster. Her peak rating was 2735. Right? Like the highest rating anybody has ever gotten. Gary Kasparov's peak rating, second highest ever, I believe, was 2851. Right? And like that's miles beyond. Like again, only 140 people have ever had a rating above 2700. She was dominant for 26 years. It just seems so dumb to frame all of this in terms of like whether the boys finally let her into their, like there were clearly sexist assholes. Clearly Gary Kasparov is a sexist asshole. Bobby Fischer is a sexist asshole. There were sexist assholes who wouldn't shake her hand when she beat them. But like, why is that the headline of her career? It just seems so pitiful when she's not an almost good player. She's not good for a woman. She's not a glass ceiling breaker. I mean, she is a glass ceiling breaker, but like that's not the headline. The headline is she was a great chess player. Maybe, but again, that's maybe I'm getting to yeah, I don't know. Maybe you tell me how if I'm off base.
No, I don't think you're off base. No, I mean, I think it's just I think there's probably a few things at play. One of them is the Netflixification and the sort of we want this story to sort of fit into a certain mold. But the other thing, so there is kind of a like, it's not a Me Too moment, but it sort of is. There is a moment that doesn't get lent on hard enough, I think, which is the moment around the touch rule.
Oh my God, I thought they leaned on that like crazy.
Well, but the thing that I feel like they didn't say properly outright was like she would have won, but
well, she would have drawn. She would have drawn.
She would have drawn. She would have drawn. But yeah, it was interesting to hear her say sort of almost word for word the kind of the Me Too script, which is like, well, I was so young, and if I spoke up, then maybe I wouldn't have had any more opportunities, and I would have been ostracized. And he was so powerful, and this kind of thing like that. I thought that was interesting, and I thought that was like a real consideration, not just for her as a young person, but as a young woman. So that's in there. But yes, it is diminishing to kind of frame it only in those terms and to not sort of allow her story the breathing space that it wants. But I think, yeah, maybe Kasparov's involvement sets it up as a like man versus woman story. Like maybe they just...
Which is just so weird. It just seems like it's not... I mean, I do remember when the Queen's Gambit came out and the... It's funny, I don't know, I haven't read the novel, but even the structure of that movie is like, I mean, Polgar is Hungarian, but she's sort of significantly not in the Soviet Union, not Russian, but this sort of, redheaded young girl outsider is pitted against the glowering, heavy eyebrowed Soviet world champion. And the climax of that movie, the big release of that movie is she finally beats him in a game. And I remember at the time, chess people were really excited about it because they were like, really, chess people tend to be pretty good sports. They're like, anything that makes this sport popular, we're into. So people loved it, even if they had criticisms, because they were like, well, the Queen's Gambit got more people to play chess and now it's more fun. But I remember hearing like, there is something a little bit silly about framing this in terms of like, she finally beat him. She beat him in a game. Like you play games against all of these people. If you're in the top level, you're playing games against one another all the time, mostly draws, but like you're all going to play and beat each other some. And again, it's not that it's insignificant. There's nothing insignificant ever about beating, a grandmaster at all, let alone Garry Kasparov. But there is something that feels a little bit artificially. It feels un-chess-like. I mean, that's the thing is like, I guess watching it, I felt like it was too much narrative and not enough chess. The other video I was going to recommend, which is also like it's narrated by her. It's all her talking with a chessboard, and they do put the the projection up as well, so you can see it flat and in perspective. But it's a 30-minute video. This is the nerdy one. If you want to get nerdy, there's a 30-minute video of her narrating move by move what she considers to be her best game, which she played in 1999, not against Garry Kasparov, against Vichy Anand, who was also playing at the time. And you see like a brief glimpse of him in one of those like group shots, and it's like the number 4 maybe of all time, and was a contemporary of hers, and is a great commentator. And I thought, like, why is Jovanka Huska in this? Why is Maurice Ashley in this? Where's Vichy Anand? Get him in here. That's a good place to see her actually talk about chess in a way that feels like I watched her TED Talk as well. Terrible TED Talk.
Yeah, I bet.
Awful. It's bad. I think it's bad. No,
I just can't imagine. Weirdly, can't imagine her doing a good job of that, even though she's so. Yeah, I feel like the format's wrong.
Well, it's bad, terrible format, and it's like you can see it's a dark room full of like tech nerds who are all kind of like politely clapping at her accomplishments, but like they don't take her seriously. She's like eating herself alive with nerves.
Oh.
She's also just like a year or two out of retirement at that point, or into retirement, which chess players retire early. And so clearly she's like sort of like she's been told what to do, but she is completely uncomfortable. And she gives like a very stilted 10-minute talk that touches on some career highlights and then ends with like, and now I want there to be chess instruction in every elementary school. And they're all like,
this was the horror. This was the horror that people don't remember of the early 2010s with the TED Talks, the minimalism, fucking Japan, everything. It was a bad time. It was actually bad. We think back and we're like, oh, Obama era was great. No, it was also bad then. Things were bad.
Yeah. But then what's so striking is at the very end of the video, some guy with an Eastern European accent comes on, and he's I don't think he's a serious chess player, but he's at least fluent enough to know. He just brings a chessboard on. He says, "Why don't you show us one of your games?" And it's like you immediately see her come alive.
Yeah, that's
she's in her element suddenly in a way that she was not for the entire talk before that. And she's winning and funny and charming and flirty and just totally delicious. Just such an enjoyable presence.
If she flirted with me, I'd immediately just crumble.
Oh man.
There's a little bit more to this conversation between Matthew and I. We get closer to drawing some parallels about how does this all look when you apply it to poetry? What is it to try to be I keep using this word master. I'm not particularly happy with it, but just to be really, really good at your craft. What does that look like? How do you know? How do you measure that when there are no objective measures in the same way that there are in particularly chess and arguably running a restaurant? And then we talk a little bit about a newish A24 movie called I Saw the TV Glow. If you haven't seen this film and you've been wanting to, recommend going and watching that before you listen to The Secret Show, because we talk about all of it. Matthew and I both had very strong, slightly different responses to it. I don't think you need to have seen it to get something out of that part of the conversation. You can hear that by going to SLEERICKETS.substack.com. If you haven't subscribed already, you pop in your email address and you'll get a week's access to the entire Slee Ricketts Secret Show backlog for free for a week. After that, it is really cheap, and I recommend converting to a paid subscription now because I'm pretty sure Matthew is going to bump up the prices soon. If you're subscribed, if you're a fully paid up member, you can also submit poems of your own for us to give you feedback on the show. And you get access to the Substack chat. There has been some very, very useful announcements on there recently about prizes that are open and readings. By the time this comes out, maybe this reading will have already happened. But Joshua Megan is reading in New York. Let me get these details up. Reading with Walter and Caro. Don't know who that is. Hope he's nice. At Otto's Shrunken Head. On Sunday, March the 8th at 4 p.m. See, 4 p.m. is a good time for a poetry reading. Like, what else are you doing at 4 p.m.? You're not interrupting dinner. You've done all your jobs for the week. It's Sunday at 4 o'clock. You might as well go to the poetry reading. And you should definitely go to hear Josh. I'm not going to share Josh O'Megan's secrets on the show here, but it's a good, exciting time to go and hear poetry by Josh. Recommend. That's all I have for you this week. I did also want to say a very quick thank you to people who have responded to recent episodes by writing to me. You're very welcome to write to me. I'm at poetrysayspod@gmail.com. It's not the world's best email address, but I do check it all the time. I'm there. You can reach Matthew, as always, at SLEERICKETS@gmail.com. And with any luck, we will all be speaking to you again very soon. Until then.